So it becomes kind of irrelevant what you're dealing with gut issues, right? If it's IBS, SIBO, ulcerative colitis, right? Histamine intolerance, diverticulitis, whatever it is, right? You're running on a survival state, which is bringing a storm down there, because the brain's got other priorities. It doesn't care about that, digesting that burrito, right? Your biome's out of whack, right? So is everything else in all the systems in your body. It's all out of whack because it's got a priority to keep you alive. It doesn't care if you suffer so much. So when you're in constant survival mode for years, right? Something's got to give, right? We weren't supposed to be in survival mode for that long. We were supposed to go, kill that bear, and it's supposed to come back down to zero, back to standby. But we haven't let our alarm system go back to standby. We're not letting it. We're going, no, we're still in a survival state. No, there's tigers in the room still. So imagine it's like you're in a prison, in a small room with 10 tigers in it, constantly, for years. Of course it's not going to turn off. That wouldn't make any sense. And then, you leave the prison, you're on the beach, and you still have symptoms because the brain is still running that old program where it believes that you're still in that prison cell with these 10 tigers in that room. So it's still running that old program because it's been hardwired in there, right? That's why it takes time, it takes patience. And it takes you to keep sending that message of safety when you're in the danger, right? So it's repetition and sticking to it, doing the work every day, doing your visuals. So you bring down the baseline over time, right? You sit and dose dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. And for me, I needed to do this, right? I needed to do the work for a year and a half before I could start training on foods. So I was sitting on my coping mechanisms, I guess my safe foods, for a year and a half, which was rice and beef, and pretty soon I had apples in there. For some reason, apples were okay. So I just did that every day. I didn't have to think much about it, right? My food tasted like shit. Didn't have much seasoning. It was boring, right? I lost a lot of weight. I went from 230 pounds, 240, and then I went down to 170. And I didn't look healthy, right? And during this journey, I waited the year and a half. It was annoying because I started doing the training after the year and a half. And for 8 months after that, 8 months, like I was saying earlier, I kept having flares. I kept feeling like shit, right? It's demoralizing. You have more doubt because of it. You're like, okay, like, when is this going to give? And it did give. I was still having flares, but they weren't as intense as before. When before, I would drink a pop, I'd have bloody diarrhea for a week and a half, 2 weeks, right? Just from ginger ale. Or if orange juice, forget about it. Anything citrus, forget about it. Histamines, anything with histamine, forget anything with anything. Forget about it. Anything that was okay, but I put in the fridge the day after, wasn't okay anymore. If I had leftover steak and rice and I put it in the fridge and I had it the next day, I couldn't eat it. Couldn't do it. I was that sensitive. And what was really frustrating for me is seeing other people getting their foods in earlier. People that were doing the work for 3 months, and they're like, "Oh my God, I can eat all the food. I'm at the beach. I'm eating pizza, right?" And that, I was comparing myself because I thought this is not fair. I've been doing the work. I've been probably doing it harder than most people, right? I've been sticking to it. I've never given up, and it frustrated me. And I know some people say don't compare, but there's like a pro and con to it. If you compare, you might get some doubts because people might move forward and you're not. You're stuck. You think you're special, right? You think, well, maybe it is the mitochondria, right? Maybe it is that blah MT motherfucker gene, right? Maybe it is that maybe I'm fucked. This is right? And then the doubt comes in and you go down that rabbit hole and that becomes your reality. Or you just slip up for a couple weeks. I did that, right? But actually what it did, seeing other people move forward ahead of me, actually put the fire in my ass to keep going. I was like, no, this is, you know what? Now I'm really doubling down. I'm never going to give up now. Before I was giving myself like a 2-year period. I was like, no, we're going to extend this contract for 5 years. Actually, we're going to do this for the rest of our lives. For the rest of my life, I'm going to keep doing this. And I started getting more foods in, right? I'd get 5 foods in, like I'd train on 5, and then, I'd have 10 foods in. And then I'd lose 5, right? That's going to happen. You're going to gain, lose. Depends what happened that week. If you're stressed out, if you're, fixated and looping on another new symptom that you got that had nothing to do with food sensitivity, that had something to do with maybe a pain or something you saw in the toilet, or something that, your OCDs, you heard a crack sound coming out of your skull, or all of a sudden your speech started slurring. Like with me, my right side of my body went weak, and I couldn't remember how to get home when I was down the street. So I looped on that, right? And then it would affect my digestion. So whatever triggers a stress response and makes your baseline go up, and your bucket, gets fuller, it's going to affect your digestion, because you have all these nerves going down to your gut, right? And digestion is a long process, right? It takes 1 or 2 days for this to go out the other end. The cool thing is when you get, 1 or 2 foods in, you end up getting 5 in, right? Because when you do the work for this one particular food, it regulates the baseline, right? So if you work this food and it's in, the baseline goes down. And that affects other foods along the way. So that could be banana, avocado, tomato, right? Well, tomato might be a little bit, it's a bit of a bigger load, right? I would say generally, but some people, are a little different that way. But there's a spectrum that I find where some foods have a bigger load capacity than others. And, you have the easy foods, you bring them in first, right? Do the easy stuff first. First, do the coping mechanisms, do the safe foods, bring your baseline down. Have patience. I know it sucks. You got to wait. And you might not have to wait 1.5 years to start, right? Everybody's different. They could be earlier. But you start with the coping mechanisms, safe foods, and then you bring, the easy foods in first, because it just makes more sense to bring, because that's the easy stuff. Baseline goes down quicker. All right, we got some leeway. We gained some leverage. Now we start doing the harder stuff, right? And it's going to come in and out, symptoms, flares, in and out, symptoms, flares. Keep doing it. Make it a part of your routine, right? 8 months, blah, 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 boom, 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 Before you know it, everything's more of a smooth line instead of it goes and then and then it's all in. No problem. You're good. And you start, eating chili like me, because I used to love chili growing up. So now I'm eating chili every day. And I don't feel nothing. It's great. So don't get too overwhelmed if you're not getting, if you're in a hurry. Because remember, it took me 3 years to fully recover, right? Fully, with foods and everything. But if you think about it, that's not that long. I know some people don't like hearing that because they think, oh no, 3 years, that's insanity, that's triggering. I don't like hearing that. Oh my God, 3 years? No, I can't do that. Oh my God, right? But 3 years, think about it. Well, how did it get to that point? How many years were you dealing with a survival state to get to that point? Right? I would say when I was, young, no problem. My teens, no problem. I think I started running a survival program in my late teens. So let's say 20. 20 right up to 40, 42, right? So like what, 30 years of running a survival program, 30 years of bullshit, of toxic relationships. You were in a narcissist here and there, right? bad job environment, toxic job environment, union environment. You took medications. You were a heavy drinker for 20 years. You're like a cigarette smoker for 15 years. You had surgeries, right? All these things that got you mentally or physically. Allostatic loads, they add up, right? Something's got to give. Right here is, the threshold where symptoms start to show up, right? And then when we get to this level, it starts to empty to this level, keep going, right? Because if you stop here, right, when you feel, what, I don't got no, I can eat foods, I have no more symptoms, I guess this is great, I'm going to stop, right? When you do that and something happens in life, because life will, boom, you got symptoms again. Like, what's the point of that? So keep going. 30 years of bullshit, and it took me 3 years. And don't forget also, I had a lot of delays, mistakes. I had, I was figuring it out. I went from one program, stopped it at 8 months because I was stuck, left it, had the balls to try something else because I was triggering. And I did it, with evidence, of course. I stuck with it. So there was delays. I slipped up. I'm human. I still went to the hospital a bunch of times in the beginning, right? I still failed. Had doubt. So technically, if I went back in time, and if I did everything over again, but with the information that I have now, with the knowledge that I have now, and I'd had to do it all over again right now. If I'm like, we're gonna have your brain run a survival program helmet, and the alarms are gonna be blaring again, but you're gonna keep this information. Let's see how you do it. It would probably take me a year and a half, right? Because we're biological. We still need to take time. Like a computer is different. If you want to change a computer, you take something out, you put something in, it works instantly. Software, put it in, wait a couple minutes for it to upload, it works instantly, pretty much like within a day. We're biological, we're a little different. There's delay time. Things take time before you create neural pathways, before alarms get turned off, before you do exposure, right? You gain leverage. Things take time, repetition, right? Being aware of old behavior patterns. The sooner you're aware of old behavior patterns, the sooner that you stop them over and over again and introduce the new program while allowing the old program to run still without stopping it, right? Because what you resist persists. Letting that happen and understanding how that works and how that feels like shit and how that feels uncomfortable and how just because you feel like shit does not mean that your finish line is not moving forward to you, right? This is as Jim Prusak would say, this is the fruit of the labor. The more work you do, this is the fruit of your labor. But at that time, you don't get that fruit. You don't get that all the things that you work for yet. No, you gotta be patient. You'll get there, right? Eventually. So just because you feel like shit while you're doing this work does not mean you're not recovering. Just remember that. And it's going to get worse before it gets better. And it's going to stay worse before it gets better. And then it's going to get better and it's going to get worse again. This is a crazy journey. It's going to test you. Right? So the easy way to fix that is just keep going no matter what. Just keep going no matter what. Eventually, you're going to get a taste of it. Keep going. Even if you think you're fine, keep going. Right? We're not here to recover only. We're here to restore. Right? We're here to go deeper. We're here to, tap into our higher selves. Right? We're here to tap into consciousness. We're here to grow spiritually also. So no matter what, don't give up. Keep going. Allow yourself to have the coping safety mechanisms in the beginning just so that you can do the work. Be patient. If you need safe foods for a year and a half, that's fine. Do it. But keep doing the work behind the scenes. Right? This is your training. This is a gift. This is your training. And then eventually you do the work. It's gonna still suck, right? And then you come out of this and you recover. As long as you stick to it, the brain has to change. It will. It has to. It has to. There's no other way. It's impossible for it not to. And you will recover. You will get there as long as you stick with it. But if you half-ass it, you do, this Tuesday, Next week, Friday for 5 minutes. And yeah, I don't think I should have to. Excuses. Old behavior patterns win every time. Then you'll always be exactly where you are and never move forward. Because at the end of the day, it's all about you. You're the only one that can do this. Nobody else, no program, nothing. You have to show up for yourself. You have to stop making excuses, right? Not only just sticking to the work, but you have to catch your behavior patterns and stop them, change them, right? And you have to go against the grain, right? And some people might say, well, isn't that resistance, right? Where the moments that it's hard, the hardest for you, that's where you pounce. That's where you go against the grain. That's where you smile like a crazy person, right? Smile like a crazy person, right? And go against the grain. Right when you feel like, you should be going to the hospital, right? Where you're like, right there, this is prime time, right? This right here is the prime time. Beware of it. Go like, what am I doing? Am I sending a message of safety or danger right now? What does that tell you? What does this tell you? Does that say safety? No. So the brain wants to keep you small. It wants to keep you in that spot there because it knows at that moment, it knows that you're alive, right? In that spot right there, it doesn't care if you suffer, but it knows that you're alive. So it's going to pull back. It's going to give you resistance. Whenever you try to do the work, it's going to pull back because it's change. Change is danger. Change is equal to danger. And it doesn't like change. It doesn't like danger. It's supposed to keep you alive. So right when it's the hardest, that's when you go against the grain. You pounce on it. Pounce. And people say, isn't that resistance? Like, well, going through this whole journey of recovery, there's resistance. You're going to go uphill in flip-flops, right? It's going to throw everything at you. It's going to throw the kitchen sink at you. No matter what you do, there's going to be resistance. You're going to take 5 steps back. When you do exposure, right? You're going to take 5 steps back. But in the long run, it pays off because you're going to gain leverage and move forward in leaps and bounds. So right when it gets hard, right? Right when it's the hardest, surrender. Don't white knuckle. And it might feel like you're going against the grain. You are. It might feel like you're giving resistance because you're doing the opposite. You are. But what we're trying to do is trying to introduce a new program of safety. We're changing the association from a danger alarm to introduce a new alarm. We're bringing the baseline down from survival to rest and digest. So where we take the resistances away is with our thoughts. Our thoughts are sending us alarms. Allow them to be there. This is where you take the resistance away, right? But the opportunities, take them, and it'll feel like resistance because the brain's going to give you resistance. It's going to feel like it. It's going to feel like you're walking uphill in flip-flops in magma. And that's also an indicator that you're doing the work. The more you struggle, the harder it is. That means you're stirring the pot. You're going into a direction the brain's perceiving danger. It's going to throw everything at you. Everything. So don't analyze, especially with food, because you think you figured it all out, right? And then you see a pattern. You're like, okay, this makes sense, blah, blah, blah. And the last minute, what it'll do, it'll flip everything on you where nothing makes sense. So everything gets thrown out the window. You think you're going back to the drawing board. You're like, okay, so if C is in place of the T cells, and then you equals MC squared, the square root of 3.150, right? If that, right, no, don't be doing that. You're not Einstein trying to figure this out. Don't figure it out. Don't analyze, because that's what the brain wants. It wants you to investigate for danger. That's its job. It's putting you through missions to look for that liger. So don't get sucked into that. Don't get sucked in to investigating. Allow it to be there. Let it do its thing. Agree with the what if thoughts. Keep working on bringing the baseline down. Elevate, dance, smile like a crazy person. Catch those old behavior patterns. That's huge. You have to catch the old behavior patterns. Stop talking about symptoms and how awful you feel and how, stop trying to build that case because you're trying to prove a point that you're sick. You know you're sick. You don't need anybody else to give you justification. You don't need to look for justice. I know we want to build that case so we get validation from people because they're dismissing how we feel. Because they can't. They're not in our bodies. If they were in our bodies for 2 seconds, they'd be having a meltdown. They'd be like, oh my God, that was, how do you do that? Oh my God, how are you alive? This is crazy. Oh my God, that's going to give me nightmares. How are you not freaking out right now? What, you should be in the hospital. This is not, what are they saying? What are the doctors doing for you? This is horse shit. I don't understand. I can't, right? Imagine some of these people that are in your lives, or anybody, right? A friend of yours, your mom, or whoever. If they were in your body for one day, no, you know what? Let's make it a month because we want to give them a good variety of different symptoms. We want to give them a good variety, right? We don't want to just give them the same old 1 day routine. No, let's make it interesting. I guarantee you, after all, if you were to check up on them after a month, they'd be like this. Are you okay? What's going on? So what do you think? Right? They'd be fucked. They'd be, right? And it would be nice to have that. It would be nice. It'd be a little bit of a payback. You'd be like, so what do you think? You think I'm full of shit? Do you believe me now? Do you believe that I've been through some shit? Do you believe that this is a fucking nightmare? Like every day is a fucking exorcism? Do you believe me now? Hey? Hello? It would be fucked up and hilarious at the same time, but sad too. It feel good to get a little payback, but it also feel good that they're finally seeing it through your eyes, because they're in you, right? You're getting the justice, and you're getting the validation that you're looking for, and then they'll pop out of it, be like, okay, you're safe, you're good, everything's gone. It's me now. I'm in that body that you were just. Don't worry, right? Look at me, right? And they'll be like, oh my god, like how are you? You were doing that? You're still in this journey. Oh my goodness. Oh yeah. I got, imagine this was in the middle of your journey. You swapped it. Or in the beginning, or you do it different parts of your journey. You're like, let's swap bodies for the beginning. And then it's like, let's swap bodies in the middle of my journey. Now let's swap bodies now that I'm recovered, right? Then at that point, when you're recovered and restored, they're going to want to swap bodies. Because they're going to be like, oh my goodness. Oh, I feel so calm. I feel so good. Like, I don't have any symptoms. I feel there's no anxiety. I feel like I can walk forever. I'm never getting a cold. Right? You want to be in my body for a couple of months? Okay, let's see. Oh my God, it's the winter season. I'm not getting a cold for 3 weeks. Oh my God, this is great. I'm not coughing. I'm not sensitive to temperature. Oh my goodness, I'm out in a t-shirt. It's -10. This is crazy. I feel like I'm superhuman. I'm a supernatural. This is crazy. Oh my God, like I don't want to change. Let's just stay. I want to stay. Maybe I'll. Is it okay? Can I shave the beard off? I don't really like the beard. I feel too much. I feel a little hairy. Now, I know I've said this a million times. I'm going to say it another 50 million times. That's why we deserve to have a parade, a street named after us. Right? We need a medal of honor that's made out of gold. They should right away wire us $10 million in their bank account. Right? They should give us, a nice car for free. Maybe a statue of like Rocky when he was Adrian. Maybe of one when you were at your sickest, kind of like right. That will be your statue, right? So all the people when they visit that city that you live in will see, wow, look at that guy. He has a street named after him. He's got a couple million in his bank account because what a hero. He went through this shit, right? And this is you. This is a gift. They should call your name at the Oscars. Right? They should, even though it has nothing to do with being in a movie, right? You should get an Oscar, right? For recovering over 75 symptoms, we'd like to welcome Blue Blue Blue. Oh my God, thank you so much. Means so much to me. I don't know how to act, but right, I like to thank, right? That's what should happen, right? At the end of it, you earn your recovery, because the reason why I'm saying you need to have a parade, because it takes that much work. You defy gravity. You're literally putting the same amount of effort and time in like an Olympian would to win the gold medal. That's what it takes, right? It takes hard work, and some people don't want to hear that. And that's what separates who recovers and who doesn't. And that might be unfair, but I think it is fair, because it's, at the end of the day, it's up to you. You're the one who creates the program. It's within you. It's nowhere else. Nobody's going to be able to help you. No program, nothing in your 3D reality will get you to recovery other than what's inside of you. So as long as you do the work, you show up for yourself every day, make mistakes, allow yourself to make mistakes. You need them. You need to make the mistakes in order to gain the leverage. Because if you don't, you'll never, it's not realistic. You have to fall on your face a bunch of times. These are the delays in recovery. Stick to it, and the brain has no choice but to change, and you will, I promise it. I promise you, you will recover, and you will thrive, and you're going to create the life that you've always wanted.